Absorb as much knowledge as you can. Attend a conference if your company will allow you. Take the classes that are offered that give you TMF knowledge. There are plenty of people out there that are so happy to share their knowledge. Absorb it. And as you do, you'll find your knowledge increases, you become more valuable to your company, and it becomes easier to sort of climb the ladder, so to speak.
Hey TMF Elite, welcome back to another power-packed episode. We're putting the spotlight on the manager of TMF operations role with Denise Harris, someone who's been in the trenches and knows what it takes to get things running smoothly. Get ready because we're breaking down everything you need to know about this position. In this episode, we will be learning about what it takes to excel in this position, the career path that leads to this role, the key skills and attributes that's going to set you apart in this position. So if you're curious about climbing the TMF ladder or you just want to know what it takes, stick around. Denise, welcome to the TMF Daily Podcast.
Thanks, Nicole. So great of you to have me.
Yes, we have been wanting to do this for a while and we are long overdue. I'm super excited for today. So your journey into this role had to be incredible. Like, can you walk us through those defining moments and experiences that really shaped your path to becoming a manager of TMF operations?
It's been a long road. I'm not going to lie. I am quickly approaching, I hate to even say it, 29 years in the
Congratulations.
Industry. It's crazy that it's been that long. And as a lot of us, I never planned on this. This wasn't like my life's goal. I had actually graduated as a medical assistant, and my first job was as an assistant coordinator doing asthma and COPD research. So that was my intro into the clinical trial realm. And I found my home. You know, I enjoy feeling like I'm doing my part in helping people's lives be better. So I stayed as a coordinator for a really long time, really, really long time.
How long? How long are we talking? 5 years, 10 years, 2 years?
It was well over 10 years.
Really?
Closer to like 15, probably. I had one little stint where I worked at Par Excel doing paper TMF. That was eons ago. I know, right? It was awful. The paper cuts are just crazy. But I missed the patients at that time. I went back to patient care and did that until I got laid off I was actually working at UCSD, orthopedic surgery, loved it. But it was just timing and the whole bit. So I got laid off and I switched over to the dark side, as I like to call it, and went into working for pharmaceuticals and biotechs. And, the biotech industry here in San Diego is enormous. There are so many companies. And I got into one and kind of did that for a little bit. And then my next job after that was to help a company implement their eTMF. So it was that whole transition part. And it was like, the light bulb went off. It's like, oh my God, I love TMF so much. This is so fantastic. It feeds like that OCD thing in me. And it's so perfect. And I stayed there and I switched around a couple companies after that and got laid off. Layoffs, we all know, happen in this industry a lot. And prior to starting at the company I'm with currently, I actually worked for Trial Interactive. So that gave me like a whole nother side of it. And then I joined this company that I'm currently with, Zencor. It's coming up on 6 years at the end of the month. It's the longest I've been with anybody I think ever in my entire life. And I love it here. TMF manager is not where I came in at. It's so hard. TMF has exploded so much in the last 5 to 10 years, and companies have become more aware of how important it is in telling the story of their trial. People are realizing, oh my gosh, I got to give it love and care throughout the study, not just at the end. And thank God, because that is, it is job security for us. But the roles and the titles, it's been hard because they weren't the norm within the industry for so long. So I initially came into Zencor as a senior CTA, which is crazy. I was never study aligned. I was only hired to do the TMF. That was it. That was my whole job. And so that title never really suited me. So I got them to change it to something like, I don't know, clinical document specialist or something like that. And that was better. And then a few years ago, there was some people that left and my manager left. They wanted me to take on more. And I'm like, if you give me the title. And that's when my title switched to manager of TMF operations. And I want to make it really clear, manager doesn't have to mean managing people.
So important.
I did for a while. It's just not, I don't care to do it much. Some people are really good at it. I'll do it if I have to, but it's really not my thing. As talky as I am, it's still not my thing. So I manage the TMF. And in my current role, I concentrate more on the document quality aspect. I do most of the onboarding and training of the new people coming in. Training is my passion. I love sharing the knowledge I've earned. I love just spilling it out at people because that's how people succeed. You can't be stingy with your knowledge. Share your knowledge, people. It's so important. And I think in the TMF realm, most of us are really good at that. We're happy to sit and explain things to people. And I think that's why it makes our community like so cohesive. You can go to the TMF summit and you meet people that you may have interacted with online or whatever, and it's like they're old friends.
Yep.
It's just TMF's where it's at. So long journey. The bottom line, it's a long journey. You just have to, you find your niche and you work with it.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know you started off as like a medical assistant. I did too. And I don't know about you. I think that really helped get into clinical research with those transferable skills. Big time.
Yes. I know personally when we're hiring either CTAs or recently we've brought all of our indexing in-house.
Yep.
So I have my own little group of indexers. Yay. I love getting the former coordinators because they're familiar with the documents.
Yes.
The majority of the document. And we all know site documents are such a bulk of what we do.
Right.
And they're familiar with that. It helps with the training. They have it.
Yeah.
I get it. And almost inevitably, most of the people that we hire into those roles are former coordinators. I love it. And
you said something else too that I want to dive a little bit deeper on. And just the term manager, especially with the TMF, doesn't always necessarily mean you're managing people. You're managing like processes or the documents. That's so much of the difference. Yeah, historically, people hear manager, they assume people. And that's really not the case for me in my role. I manage the TMF. I am not study aligned. I never have been here at this company. So I have that broader understanding of what you need. I can tell you if that document should be in here, but I can't do completeness checks for you because I don't know what's required for your study. And we currently have, I want to say 7 to 9 studies that are active at the moment. It's kind of crazy. So it's managing how the documents come in, the quality of them, and are they being filed in the correct location? Go to the reference model, people. Start there, always start there, but make sure that you're making your study index individual for each study because what applies over here may not apply to this study over here. So who manages the TMF department? If it's not the manager of TMF, who manages the TMF people? Our structure. Yep. I have my manager. Yep. Is the head of the TMF operations. And her current title is, I think, senior manager. So that's where and then she reports directly to the VP of clinical operations.
So, and that's generally kind of the hierarchy you'll see with this. The TMF operations is almost always going to be part of ClinOps because that's who we work the most closely with. But you have to get your functional areas to come on board with it, to get excited about TMF. You need to bring safety and data management because they're the SMEs of their documents. I don't know which data management documents we should have. I have no idea, but they do. And getting them on board with regular QC reviews throughout the life of the study, it's like a big thing around here. That's what's important. And that's where my manager kind of helps bring those people in. And then I help to train them and we kind of get them all going. We brought in a new role within our group that is solely responsible for managing the QC reviews. So that's a fantastic thing.
So what's a typical day look for you? Right?
Generally speaking, okay, keep in mind, in my role, I am also responsible for the high impact secondary review of documents that the indexers have done. So I have a task list within the eTMF that I need to be looking at on a daily basis. Currently, I'm also in charge of user access. So any user access requests that have come in, I try and get them done immediately because generally people want to get in there and get their hands dirty. So typically, you come in, you're going to go through your email, which who knows how many that is. You're hoping it's not awful, but sometimes it's out of control. Put out any fires, really prioritize what has to be done immediately. And that's where, for me, things like the user access, I think that's a high priority thing. People need that sooner rather than later. Or if they're having any trouble with their access, you take care of that. So take care of those things. Log into the TMF. We currently use Viva here. Check my task list. Do I have anything that's pressing? Is there anything that's coming due today? Get those done and then start working on whatever is out there. I'm putting out a lot of fires today. We've had some things come up, particularly involving PHI issues, which is always a big thing. So there's that to take care of, along with we have a vendor that's rolling off. We've switched to a different vendor. So the documents they've uploaded are not appropriate as they currently are. So trying to figure out how we're going to fix that situation. Days are never typical for me. It's a whole lot of putting out the fire. It really is. I think that's common in TMF. It's always something. I know we talked earlier. It's just because it's their priority, it doesn't have to be your priority. So managing that aspect, and then I'm getting questions all day long from the indexers, from the CTAs, from whoever of, I can't find this. Where should I put this? How do I take it? So I'm that person. And
you're the go-to.
I am the go-to. And it's one of my favorite things to do. I love sharing the knowledge. Sharing the knowledge is so fantastic. It's lovely watching the progression of people's knowledge. And then they move on to other things. And then you're just like, I did that. I did that. And it's really rewarding. I love what I do.
It's such a good feeling, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's why I tell everyone, I'm like, don't ever be afraid to ask me a question. Ask me the same kind of question 10 times.
Right.
I may not be explaining in a way that makes sense to you. Let me change up how I'm doing it. And I'm never going to just give you yes or no. I'm going to explain why, because I think explaining the why makes them understand it better.
Yes, exactly. It's not like, go look at the SOP.
Yeah, no, you don't get that from me. You don't. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm just going to walk you. I think you train people better that way. They become better at what they do. So.
Yeah. What do you think are the must-have skills and attributes that separate those top-tier manager of TMF operations from the rest of the pack?
I think you have to be extremely flexible. You have to be willing to pivot all the time because something's going to come up. you get that notification that the inspector's coming. Well, suddenly this that seemed like a priority, you need to worry about this over here. So pivoting, you got to roll with the punches. I think that's one of the biggest key things. The other thing is just don't be afraid to tell people you don't know, and then go seek out the answer from others who may be better equipped to answer it than you. This is a human thing for me. Be kind to others. It's like that. They don't know what they don't know. Don't get mad at them because they don't know this answer. They're not the expert. You are. And they're coming to you for that knowledge. And they're asking you because you are the expert. Just be kind and explain things. People just want to know. So, and a touch of OCD really, really helps so much in this job. It's not just, oh, that's fine. That's okay. That's good enough. That it doesn't work in this world. You have to have some OCD. I'm sorry. It's like, I like yelling at people all the time. It's like, just be nice, be kind to people. It will go a long, long way. And it helps you. It does. Because then they're willing to learn. They're hearing what you're saying instead of getting defensive.
We're on the same team.
It's usually not. They just don't know.
And we all started from the bottom.
Right?
We all learned right from the bottom to the ground up.
I often have to remind myself that spewing out we know we love our acronyms in this industry. My God, we love our acronyms. But not everybody's familiar with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they start having that glazed look in their eye,
you can see it.
You can see it and go, oh, that's right. They don't understand what all of this means. We have a running list of acronyms I try and remember to send to people. It's like, this will help you when you start. So,
it's like learning a new language.
It really is. It really is. And I tell, especially every now and then we'll get someone who's not from the industry at all. And it's like, they're like, you guys use a lot of acronyms. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's like a whole language. It's a language.
It really is.
And you could you could have an entire conversation, nothing but acronyms. And certain people are going to know exactly what you're talking about.
You really could.
It's crazy.
Every role has its hurdles. So what are the toughest challenges you face in keeping your TMF inspection ready? And how do you tackle them just like head on?
That's a fabulous question, because we all know getting your functional areas involved in the TMF can be difficult. It just can't. And I understand why. They're busy too. We're all very busy. We're trying to get stuff done. And us asking them, hey, I really need you to review this section, twice a year. And they're just like, I don't have time. And it's like, but if you don't do it now, that means at the end of the study, which if it's a study we have some studies that will go on for 6 or 7 years. That's a lot of documentation to look through, and you don't want to have to do that. And then we're going to be yelling at you to get it done in a week. Also, if this study gets selected for an inspection, are you prepared to answer the questions from the inspector? Because you're going to answer them, not me. I'm responsible for the quality of the documents in the TMF. You, as the SME of this department, are responsible for what's actually there. I'm not. And I'm not going to answer those questions from the inspector. You're going to. And then that means you're going to have to do a whole action plan and possibly a CAPA and the whole bit. Are you prepared to spend the time? Or can you just spend the next hour taking care of this right now? Right now. That for me is probably one of the most challenging, is getting those functional areas involved and not necessarily excited. We all know they're not really excited about it, but at least involved in looking at their documents. And send in your correspondence, people. Come on now. Send in your email correspondence, the bane of my existence. And I think that is any person who's working in the TMF, they're going to say the same thing. You have to send it in regularly. regularly, contemporaneous people. Sorry. We've tried so many different ways of trying to get that in. And it's always going to be a challenge. It really is. It's just people forget or they don't care. And I keep saying, well, what if you leave? You don't want to have to do it when you have 5,000 emails to go through and then you just dump them all because you don't know what's significant and what's not. Just do it as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? See,
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Don't wait to the end.
Yeah. It's generally, the challenges are generally not me personally. It's more the other components and people that need to contribute to the TMF, because the TMF, it's not a single person's problem. It's everybody's. It's everybody has to get involved in it. It tells the story of your trial. You know, the data is great and you clean it up and that's fabulous. But if you don't have all the other documents that support that data you collected, it's meaningless. And we all know if you are lucky enough to get your drug all the way to the FDA and you're going for approval, they're going to come in and look at the TMF. They want to see the TMF. That's not going to change. And everybody has to be involved in it. Everybody. So getting everybody, I mean, I get it. Not everybody's going to be the TMF nerds that we are. I know that, but you still have to give it the love and care it needs throughout the life of the study. I know I keep saying that, but it's throughout the life of the study. I don't care if the study's only a year long. You need to have it all through it. Get people excited.
I know. It's like work on this study as if your family member was participating in this trial. Wouldn't you want all that documentation?
That is such a great way. You know what? I may steal that.
Feel free to.
The next time someone's like, do we really have to do this right now? Yes. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, here at the company I'm with now, I mean, we're most of what we're doing is oncology. So it's like, this is not.
It's real people.
These are real people and they're sick and they need help and we're providing help, but you have to give me, it's not just about the drug delivery. It's not just about the data that's collected from that. It's all of it. We need to tell the story of the trial. And that's what TMF is about.
Yeah. And even just thinking about the frustration, if that was your loved one in the trial and they say someone couldn't find the documentation that you were looking for, that you needed, how frustrating is that?
Yes.
Like, what do you mean? I submitted it. Where is it?
Exactly.
I need it right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
So it's important. It's just the TMF is important. And I love how in the last few years that's become much more the norm. Mm-hmm. That companies are really realizing you have to have specialists in the TMF to really make your trial successful. You can't just assign it to the random CTA or CRA or CTM or whatever. You have to give it. It has to be someone who understands.
Right.
And that's where we all come in. And it's been fab. I love that I found that little niche for me that really it works. It works.
I'm all about finding solutions and like pushing for that peak performance. What are the top strategies like you've implemented to overcome like these challenges and drive success?
If you want your functional areas to actually perform your reviews that they need to, outline it very clearly in your TMF plan. Mm-hmm. It needs to be in writing. And provide them tools to make it easier. We've developed some tools that have really, I think, helped that process along. And we all know if it's not written down, it didn't happen. You need to document, make some sort of certificate that says this person performed a review on this area and the findings were documented. You don't have to say what the findings are, We don't want to put that in the TMF. People remember that. You don't need to
That's
point out all that, but make sure that they're addressed. You have to put it in your plans, people. It has to be there. And not just, reviews will be conducted every 6 months. No, say data management will perform a quality review or a completeness review or whatever kind of review you want on this schedule. And it starts at this time point. That's kind of been a big point of contention here is when do we perform the first one? Is it, 3 months after the study starts? Is it 3 months after the first subject enrolls? Is it 3 months after, the first site is initiated? You have to set that time point. And it can vary by functional area because stats isn't really going to need to look at it hardly ever because not a lot of statistical documents are filed in the TMF until the end. So, and make an index that makes sense, that says these are the documents that are going to go in this classification, and this is who's responsible for providing them, and this is who's responsible for reviewing them. And we all know a lot of things are kept in other places. Make sure your index says all these regulatory things are kept in the regulatory vault. Point to where it belongs. You have make the path, and it will make your life so much easier. So yes, get everybody else involved. I'm all about getting everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't have to be TMF nerds, but they need to at least do their part.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
It really does. Honest to God, it really does. And it will make your life much easier. And if you're nice, polite, and enthusiastic about their involvement, you'll get more from them, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
You got to throw it out there. I tend to go down these paths and it's just like, get all excited about it.
It's all good stuff. I'm loving it.
Excellent.
How do you stay ahead of the game, like in TMF operations? Like what recent initiatives or like breakthroughs have you led that you're really proud of?
I don't know that I've led them personally. I've kind of been involved in it. My boss is fantastic. She loves doing processes and whatnot. So it's like I just kind of get dragged along with it. It's great. But we recently have started a steering committee, a TMF steering committee here at Zencor. And we've only had a couple meetings, but getting the group together, and it's all people within ClinOps, get a representative from each position. So CTM, CRA, CTA, that they may not be spending all their time in the TMF, but what we do impacts their job. So getting them together and having a platform to make decisions where we don't feel like we're just dictating to them. Because when you dictate, people don't like it. They get unhappy about it. And I understand that. None of us be like, you need to do this. And with no explanation, just you need to. Nobody likes that. And so having this where we bring them together and we talk about problems or things that we want to change, I think is really helpful. And I recommend it for everybody. If you have a small little TMF operations group, have some sort of platform where particularly ClinOps has a voice in what you're doing. You don't always have to go with their suggestions. You don't. But hearing them can make a difference. It can make a huge, huge difference. So that's one thing I've been really super happy to see implemented here. Having someone to drive the reviews, the TMF reviews, has been, because my boss and I were trying to do that, but it's like we had so many other things going on. It was really hard to stay on top of, whereas that's her job. You got to have the right people. If ask your company if you can grow your team, if there's enough headcount to grow. Sometimes just having one more body to help because there's so much going on. Recently, our TMF systems person left. He handled all the changes in the TMF, all the user access, if it was technical and it was wrong, he took care of it. And so we're having to struggle to kind of, how do we absorb that into all these other things? We have a lot of other things. It's so, we've divvied some of it up. We're going to, they've allowed us to hire a contractor to work on an as-needed basis. That may be a great option for a lot of companies. There are companies out there that you can contract with that can handle just pieces of what you're doing that may free up enough of your time to take care of other things. That's, I think, recognizing that you need help. We all know we need help. There's never enough there's never enough bodies in the TMF. There just isn't, and that's just a us thing. But finding those experts that can take, maybe they I know for us, we're going to have them handle all the UAT anytime there's any change controls. So they're going to write the scripts, they're going to run the UATs, and they're going to develop and conduct the trainings. Oh my God. That's so fantastic, because I've spent the last week updating training slides because, somebody's got to do it and it's me. And I love training, but like the basic user access, I don't need to be doing that. I need to be giving you the detailed stuff. Find the right people. Ask your company if you can hire some contractors. It makes a difference. It makes you feel a little less stressed. Mm-hmm. I think TMF operations in general tends to be, we all feel a lot of stress all the time because we're juggling all the balls all the time. All of it. It's all in the air, and I'm not gonna lie about it. It's all the time with us. So ask for help, and reach out to others in the industry to ask questions. When you're like, hey, how do you handle this? You would be surprised. I mean, I've gotten so much great advice, particularly like at the TMF Summit. I love to go to the TMF Summit, people. It's fantastic. I love that. It's my favorite one of all time. But ask the others in your roles, how are you handling this? What are you doing about this? Because everybody's experiencing the same problems. We all are. That's just how it works. And somebody may have that idea that you're like, oh my God, that's perfect. That's so perfect. So there's plenty of people that are happy to share their information. There really are. And reach out to them. Just reach out to them.
Sometimes you just got to talk it out.
You do, and I have found that to be so incredibly helpful. I still on occasion will reach out to people that I have worked with previously and be like, hey, I know you're not doing this, but what did you do about that? Talk it out with them. It works. It's a great community. The TMF groups it's a great community, and people are so willing to share what they know. Use it. It's important. It's how we stay on top of things, because it keeps changing. We have new things coming through, and you got to ask somebody to ask. Just ask. I know I'm like a broken record. Ask people. It makes a difference.
Speaking of staying on top of things, let's talk about the regulations and the guidelines. And we know staying compliant with the regulatory standards is just crucial. So what steps do you take to ensure your TMF adheres to all the necessary guidelines and regulations?
I'm fortunate in that my boss, tends to keep on top of it. And then she's like, okay, we need to do this. Then we inevitably will we have a compliance department. And one of them in particular, she's really TMF savvy, really, really TMF savvy. I love that. I know. She's fantastic. And so we'll meet and be like, hey, what parts of this do we need to be concerned with? What parts of this do you feel are a risk to how we're currently conducting business? And that's kind of where we start, and then branch it out from there. We've figured out that we do need to make a couple of changes. So it starts at the top. I put in my piece of it, meet with compliance, and then the change controls start. Because you have to, you can't stay stagnant. You just can't. They're always going to come up with something where it's better for the subjects, it's better for the patients, because at the bottom of all of this, it's all about subject safety. It really honestly is. And it may not feel like it when you're just, doing your document thing. It's part of it. And do your part, people. Do your part. But yeah, it like I said, it's generally, it comes from my supervisor, and then I come in with my part, because we may have the same title, but we do different roles. Honestly, I know we're talking about like roles in the TMF. It happens. I have seen people at a company where everybody has the same title and they're all doing 10 different things. It's not across the board. It's much more broad than that. So, yeah.
For those that are aspiring to reach like the level you're at, like what advice would you give to them, and what should they focus on to achieve a role like yours?
If you think TMF may be for you, and it's not for everybody, I'm going to just put that little caveat out there. But if you think it might be, great place to start. If a company has dedicated indexers, start there. That's going to give you a really deep dive into the TMF in a very short time. You're going to learn pretty quickly whether document management is for you. If not that, coming into companies as a CTA really gives you a good base. And most CTA, not all, depends on the company. Everybody handles it differently. Most CTAs are pretty TMF heavy, because they're having to manage that part of it. The role, they're given sort of that role to oversee. I like it a lot. As I said earlier, if you're a coordinator, coordinators make fantastic people in the clinical trial arena in general. Again, I didn't plan on TMF. I sort of fell into it, and and I think that happens with a lot of people. But if you find the TMF is for you, and you've maybe, you started as the CTA, absorb as much knowledge as you can. Attend a conference if your company will allow you. Take the classes that are offered that give you, TMF knowledge. Attend listen to podcasts. There are plenty of people out there that are so happy to share their knowledge. Absorb it. And as you do, you'll find your knowledge increases. You become more valuable to your company, and it becomes easier to sort of climb the ladder, so to speak. You may have to change companies. It happens. That we all know in biotech that it happens a lot. Most people, it's a couple of years and then they move on. I understand. That's why it's so weird. 6 years with the same company. So crazy when I think about it. But absorb the knowledge. I think that's my biggest thing. There's plenty of people that are happy to share it. Take the class. Showing that initiative that you want to learn can make a huge difference. Take in as much as you can. It makes a huge, I love it. Love the TMF. See, I'm just so crazy about it. It's just ridiculous.
So I'm going to end with 2 questions that I always ask everyone that's a guest on the show. And the first one is, what's the best career advice that you've ever received, and who's it by?
Oh, dang. I think the best advice I received was from, she was a supervisor quite a while back. And it's kind of exactly what I've been spewing this whole time. Take the knowledge that other people are willing to impart and really hear it. We don't always listen to hear, we listen to respond. And if you find like a mentor, whoever, she's like, just find someone who wants to share their knowledge and listen to them and ask questions. Asking questions is the best thing. And it was some of the best advice I get, because you can apply it, not just in the TMF world, you can apply it through your life. And it's just, you can choose your career. You can. And finding the one that you're passionate about is so important. It's so important. It makes it makes working a lot easier. But yeah, she told me that, and I'm like, that is some of the best advice I ever got. Just find someone who already has that knowledge and wants to share it with you, and listen to them. Really, really listen. I know that, again, it's a running theme through everything I say, but listen to the people who have the knowledge. They know what they're talking about. They do. Some of them have done the harder stuff that you don't feel like it's researching and whatnot. So just take their stuff. So and I would say the same thing to anybody. Just listen to people.
And lastly, what is your favorite trial master file document and why?
Honestly, I love the 1572. I know a lot of people are like, why? I'm like, because you gain so much knowledge from a 1572. You know who the PI is, who the sub-Is are, what labs they're using, where the site is located. You have all that. An IRB, don't get me started. And it's never going to be an IRB document because, oh my God, bane of my existence. But I love the 1572 because of all these supporting documentation that it guides you to. It's such a great starting place. And so for me, yeah, that'll work for me. If you have that, you can figure out so much about a site as that's your start. So get your 1572s, people. Get them early. Pay attention to them.
Denise, thank you so much for coming on the TMF Daily Podcast. So grateful for our conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. This was so much fun. It was so much fun.